Is your party committed to the Zero Carbon Act to address climate change? And what concrete actions does your party plan to take to meet this goal? And importantly, we want to know by when.
The short answer to that is yes, we would support. And I would like to draw your attention and memory that National Party supported Labour Party and voted with Labour to join the Paris Accord and to meet our carbon emission targets. And we would actually double our sustainable energy production when we come to power. We would increase the number of charges to 10,000 EV charges across the country with an investment of $280 million. And that is within our first term. Those are the efforts we will make. And also, we would encourage innovation like what is happening in Auckland University, where a group of PhD students working on a project, vehicles can wirelessly charge while they are driving. Now, those are the kind of innovation that New Zealand is famous for, and we would encourage innovation and investment into such innovations as well. Now, agriculture is one of the major contributors for emissions, and we encourage innovation in that so that our farmers can be the model for the world, where we produce the most efficient production of agricultural products so that our jobs are retained here and it doesn't go to places that actually damage the climate, which we all agree needs urgent dealing, and that is exactly what National Party proposes. I invite you all to go to National Party websites and have a look at Electrifying New Zealand and other policy issues that we released, and you would find there is a cross-party agreement in dealing with climate change. So it is not just one particular party's view that the climate change is going to be affecting. I'm worried about my own daughter's future and our children's and grandchildren's future. And it is all of us in it together. And the National Party is pragmatic, and you will actually try to find cross-party agreement on how we can tackle the climate change and how we can meet the emissions target that we set ourselves and be realistic at the same time by investing in infrastructure that would produce those results.
Okay, by when? By when?
Well, each one of them, we actually are realistic, not 2040. We want to do it by 2030.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to start by acknowledging the role of James Shaw as Climate Minister and the important work that he did in implementing that Act. And the reason why it's such an important piece of legislation is not only for the emissions target it sets, but for the institutional and legal framework that it sets in place for all governments to be forced to be transparent about how they will reduce emissions, and to make sure that every government budget and policy is looked at through a climate change lens, and that reducing emissions are central to decision making. Now, hopefully we'll be in a position to continue to implement many of the recommendations from the Climate Change Commission that have come through that Act. What I want to talk about is renewable energy by 2030. New Zealand becoming 100% renewable energy. That is something that is achievable. Our government is committed to it. But I also want to refer to what's going on in the Chatham Islands, which is an important part of the Rongotai electorate. At the moment, much of their power is relied on through diesel generation. It's very expensive, and we need to do things differently there. The government has invested $10 million in a renewable energy project for the Chatham Islands, and I totally back that. The other thing I want to talk about when it comes to Zero Carbon Act and our approach to climate change is the critical importance of a just transition. I want to make sure that we leave nobody behind, and I acknowledge the work of the International Labour Organisation and the New Zealand Council of Trade Unions in advocating for those workers who go from high-emitting jobs and have to transition into other industries being supported. Because unless we take everyone with us, we're doing a huge disservice, and we will add to inequality and poverty and division in this country.
Yes, the Green Party supports the Zero Carbon Act and the targets set. And we've got two key policies that are really focused on climate that are in the 7 top priorities this election. That is the clean power payment, which I alluded to slightly in my introduction, and climate safe communities. And I really encourage you to look at those documents because they're really great vision and practical actions for how we can achieve that. So one of them is ensuring that there is grants and low interest loans made available at a very large scale through local authorities to households, whether you're a landlord or an owner-occupier. And that would enable people to invest in insulation, swapping out gas appliances for electric, and putting solar panels on the roofs. And we think that with this policy, within 15 years, 1 in 3 houses in New Zealand could have solar panels. That would massively help contribute to our distributed, resilient, renewable electricity. And when people have their own solar panels, they have a direct incentive to switch the time that they're using the electricity if they're able to. So that's another advantage of it. Reduces people's power bills. And you know, households in the Chathams, I think 2/3 of the households in the Chathams aren't on the grid, so they actually need a program like this to be able to get their own individual solar panels to really benefit to switch away from diesel. The climate safe communities is all about adaptation and ensuring we can deal with heavy rainfall events. You will have seen maybe today that a state of emergency has been declared in Gore because of heavy rainfall. We need to work really fast to be investing in nature-based solutions that can help take pressure off our stormwater and reticulated networks. And of course, transport is a big part of it. But I do have to say that the best way to get practical action on climate change is to give your party vote to the Greens so we have more MPs and more ministers and we have more power to negotiate, because successive national and Labour governments unfortunately have not done enough.
Vision believes in sustainability and protecting our environment. Vision will put to end climate change overreach. We have adopted the current Freedoms New Zealand farming policy that addresses climate change food, and we will repeal the Carbon Emission Act. Why are we doing this? Because we believe that there is global control, and we will withdraw from the United Nations, which then allows us to remove ourselves from the World Economic Forum and the World Health Organization. This removes the UN-driven campaigns to control our country and drive the climate change for food production and health control. We will put New Zealand first before our other countries. We will also repeal the 3 waters, repeal the Zero Carbon Act. We will remove the methane emissions from livestock from all climate change calculations. We will cancel the emissions trading scheme. We believe selling carbon credits has no impact on other polluters. They continue to pollute anyway. We believe we are already carbon negative. However, our biggest stores of carbon are native forests and are excluded from our carbon calculations. We will ensure pasture and crops are excluded from current carbon calculations. We will remove the office and powers of the Minister of Climate Change. We will develop our own climate change policy that encourages reduction of real, measurable emissions. Let's unite this nation again. Party vote freedom. Vote roa for Rongotai. Kia ora.
Donald McDonald, Independent. Now, climate, there has never been any intention. Go back. The change is the wrong way. Okay, I was photographed with James Shaw at Parliament. Now, free buses. I stopped driving last century, 28 years. There's a noisy sound technician over there. Number plate, Rocket Lab and Carry One. Okay, Rocket Lab. It crashed. Another one, social justice. The honest math, the ratio was 1.58 times. And the news said 37%. So how do you get that? Plus or minus all times. That's a big problem. Broadcasting. Trouble. There is no law you must take drugs. There's no law that says you must take drugs. Your addiction is You made a mistake. You have to pay.
The Zero Carbon Act actually has two parts to it. First part's all about, well, it has three parts. One's about building a commission, but beyond that, it's about emissions reductions, and the second part is about adaptation. It seems to me that we've got too much focus on emissions reductions. New Zealand's net effect in the world is 0.17%, so we could be very efficient in doing our reductions, but the effect worldwide is not going to stop the storms from coming. It's not going to stop the weather events that we're getting.
It's not the point.
They will still come. But the real point is adaptation. So we need to be prepared, have a plan for what happens when those events happen. What happens if sea level rises? What happens if temperatures change and or increase or decrease? What happens with the flood risk? So we need to have a plan of, if these things are going to happen, what are we going to do to mitigate or to adapt? There is a plan in the first stage of the plan is in place. It was been published by the government last year, as far as I can tell, which is very waffly and has no real targets or anything to do. But I'd like to see a plan which says, okay, if sea level rises by half a metre, this is a consequence. We have so much time to do this. Someone a few nights ago suggested the idea of building a dam across Cook Strait, across the harbour entrance. Whether that's a good idea or not, should be evaluated. But those sort of plans need to be in place as to what we're going to do if various things happen. And another 10 seconds is to have a Kiwi-based insurance company. A lot of our costs are driven by insurance, which by international companies that don't understand how New Zealand works, and a Kiwi-based company would resolve some of that.
So for New Zealand First, we actually helped establish the Zero Carbon Act as a means to provide environmentally responsible action to reduce emissions. However, we do not believe that the recommendations made by established Climate Commission or any carbon budgets recommended be binding on the government to adhere. We are climate pragmatists and understand the balance needed on climate action and safeguarding community and business from socio-economic degradation. So New Zealand First believes in investment in emission reduction innovations, which we have done through the Provincial Growth Fund, with the likes of the Blue Carbon Initiatives and the 1 Billion Trees program. We're also a big advocate of heavy freight transport, such as rail and coastal shipping and mass public transport. So we do not believe that heavy regulatory burden on farmers and primary industry will achieve the balanced outcome that we need.
Thank you.